Today I've got a real treat for you. We're talking with one of my close friends named Peter Shallard. He is an absolute expert at bringing the right customers into his business, not just any customers. This is something that I've helped him a lot with throughout the years because I've known Peter for quite a while. And yeah, I'm really excited to jump into this and show you how you can bring the correct customers into your business by using a simple filter that not only adds value, but also impresses them so that they want to work with you in the future. This will be great for anyone that does coaching, consulting, freelancing, or really runs any sort of service business. I think you're going to get a lot out of this video. Let's get right into it. All right, I'm Nick Reese, and I'm here with Peter Shallard, one of my best friends in the world, globetrotting buddy, and just brilliant business consultant. He's like insanely good at coaching. There's nothing really more than I can say about that. He's the best. So today, what I actually want to talk to you guys about is Peter's insights that he's gained as he's gone through and scaled his customer acquisition process, how clients enter his business, and how they start working with him. He's gone through 3 different iterations. It's something I've helped Peter a little bit on, and he is an absolute master at bringing on the right customers instead of just any customer. Peter, how's it going?
Good, man. I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about this stuff, to break it down.
Nice. Very cool. So first, go ahead and tell people a little bit about you. I mean, I can do an introduction, but I think you got a much more concise pitch about what exactly you do.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so my name's Peter Shallard. I'm the shrink for entrepreneurs. My business is all about helping business owners create wealth and freedom and sanity. All 3 at the same time is what I'm really passionate about helping people achieve. And I love the really big things, the big impact that entrepreneurs make when they figure out that hat trick and get all 3 humming at once. I work at the intersection of business and psychology. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching, and I'm really passionate about building sustainable, profitable coaching practices that are beautifully unscalable, in the sense that the work I still do is, it's top price, premium consulting, but it's not turning into an empire anytime soon. My goal is to create a really cool lifestyle business for myself and pay myself a really great salary by doing work that I love. And I've achieved it. These days I do about 15 consulting hours a week, pays for a really great lifestyle here in New York City, where I'm based. I'm originally from New Zealand, but I live in New York now. And I get to travel everywhere and do whatever I want and just generally live the good life. So yeah, and of course, our work together, Nick's invaluable brainstorming on how to turn strangers into customers, has been a really big part of getting to this point.
Perfect. So tell them a little bit about how you got started, because we've known each other for years now, and it's kind of interesting to be doing a video call and not everyone has the context that we have in our relationship of going to Spain. Actually, I'm gonna toss this out there. Peter, because of Peter, I know my fiance now.
It's true.
It's crazy. So let's give the viewers a little bit of context about how you got started in doing what you do.
Yeah. So I got started, my first business was a psychotherapy practice, a brick and mortar. We had an office back in New Zealand, people coming in and out. This is before I worked exclusively with business owners. So it was just regular civilians who were coming in for kind of coaching, psychotherapy on anything from anxiety disorders right through to depression, addictions, pretty heavy stuff. And I kind of learned the hard way. I spent my entire life focusing on becoming the best possible therapist and mastering all of my skills and techniques in that area, and then just set up this practice and opened up shop in the hope that somehow strangers would find out about me and just show up on my doorstep. And the universe kind of had a few lessons to teach me. So unfortunately that didn't happen. But the cool thing was that while I sat there with no clients wondering what to do, I started figuring out business and learning, educating myself about sales and marketing and all that kind of stuff. So I built the original practice, my therapy practice, up to the point that it was humming along pretty decently, enough that I decided I really didn't like doing that work. And then I got into some corporate consulting while that was going on, which was more lucrative and seemed like the next best thing to do. And then slowly figured out my real passion, which is working with the guys who run some of these exciting businesses I was doing consulting with. That kind of happened almost by accident, but once I started it, I knew that was that was what I wanted to do. And I knew that I had found my kind of niche, my little thing that I wanted to really blow up and make that my full-time focus. So fast forward, like this all took many, many years, but fast forward to figuring out the Shrink for Entrepreneurs as a brand. I was living in Sydney, Australia at the time, which is where I did a lot of the corporate consulting. And I figured out how to build an online brand, build a sort of a permission asset, like a nice database of my tribe, people who love reading about business and psychology and where they come together. And I started doing free email consults. And that is really how I built my business. So it was like massively unscalable, but if someone emailed in like a big description of where they were at, I actually had them fill out a questionnaire. I would send them back like a free riff. I would go into in 1,000 words, like many thousands of words, I would go into like all of the details of what I would do with them if they were a client, where I think they should go next, offer them some insight, try and reframe the perspective that they're on, and just generally give them like a kind of a test drive experience of what it might be like to work with me. And that was my, when they would respond back and be really grateful for what they had received, that's when I would then pitch them on, becoming a client and joining my roster of clients, which at that point worked on as it does now, like a monthly retainer. So I slowly built up my practice with entrepreneurs all around the world that way.
So really that was your first iteration. That was like the first process was email you, and then you would send them an insanely not scalable like email addressing their problems about how you would address them if they were a client. So tell me a little bit about what that first process was like. I mean, you said, I know it's an email to you and you gave them some email coaching, but like, what did you like about that? What didn't you like about it? And how did it convert?
Well, the cool thing was at the time, it felt like the best available alternative to hopping on the phone with somebody and having a dialogue for free, which I think is where a lot of coaches go and where my mind initially went. And I tried to like the thing about this is that I could have like a hopper of them, like it wasn't urgent in the sense that like wasn't the phone ringing and then I have to pick it up or miss the opportunity. So it was great because it could kind of stagger responses. I dedicated a couple of afternoons a week to really getting into these and going through them in a lot of detail. And I also set a really nice little obstacle, like a bit of an ordeal for the customer or the prospect to go through, because I had this great piece of copy that was like, it said something about the amount of effort that you put in to your email to me or to your answers to the questionnaire is like equivalent to the amount of effort that the amount of like energy and attention that you'll get out of it from me. So I would always reward people who really made the effort to write in and tell me a lot of detail and go deep about these topics. I would always make the effort to really help those people. So it was cool because I got the people who were like the most interested. Occasionally I'd get an email with like 1-sentence answers to the questions that I asked, and then I'd just write it off. I'd actually email them back and say, hey, you know what, like this isn't enough information. I'm not going to do anything with this. If you want to fill it out in more detail, like we can look at it. And surprisingly, some people were so shocked to hear back from like a real human, not like a robot autoresponder, that actually worked. And some of those people ended up becoming clients, So yeah, there was a lot of really cool benefits to it at the very beginning compared to what most other people in the industry were doing. But there was some serious downsides as well. Like one was that I was typing, like I was probably producing 10, 15,000 words, maybe more a week of email content. Like one day I should go back and mine those for good blog posts, like material, or I don't know. But it was crazy. And after a while, I actually started getting carpal tunnel-ish symptoms in my arms because I was typing so damn much information. And like, yeah, I mean, I think that's where you come into the story, because it was successful. I built my practice enough up to the point that it was paying me like a 6-figure income that enabled me to like travel around. I moved to New York. We did some crazy stuff that first year that I think you showed up in New York and I was there. I traveled around nonstop. Every 3 months I was like in another country doing something fun, and my base was in Manhattan. So it was like a great lifestyle. But I remember coming to your place, like showing up on your doorstep that one time, just being like, I don't know what to do. I can't keep writing these emails. Like I'm dying. I was just drowning. And like, because as I got more popular, it became a victim of its own success, like I was getting tons of leads coming in and I just couldn't get back to all of them fast enough. And then, I think that one of the factors that a lot of people don't realize about like marketing when you're doing, particularly with coaching, is that you're dealing with people who are only going to take action when they're really experiencing a problem that's causing them a lot of pain right there and then and there in the moment. So as great as it felt to me to have like an inbox full of prospective leads for me to get back to, like it's kind of reassuring because I'm like, oh, look at all that potential business there, you know? The problem is that if I let it get stale, those people would inevitably find solutions for their problems or just kind of move on and forget about it. Or, you know what I mean? Like the urgency never would stay as hot as it was. And so one of the things, because we've tested like crazy, like all of the different evolutions of the system over the years. And one of the key factors that really like dictates the performance of the marketing tactic is speed, is how quickly can you get back to those people and address their problem and demonstrate your like efficacy as a coach. And so like when I got overwhelmed and stopped being able to do the emails, I would find myself procrastinating completely. Days, weeks would go by, and then none of them were converting. And so the business was like kind of on shaky ground at that point. Right. And then you come into the story. I showed up and lost my shit in your living room late one night and was like, what do I do? And we yeah, well, you can tell the story, I guess.
Yeah, but pretty much. So I lived in Manhattan in and out of Manhattan for quite some time, and me and Peter spent, I would say, every other day together hanging out. And one evening, Peter came over, and he was just saying, man, I can't keep writing these. And at one point, we had an office together, and I was working out of Peter's office, and he was, I remember he was just like banging out emails. And I was like, how much do you really type? And he was saying, you know, like these take me 30 to 45 minutes to an hour to respond to each of these requests. And so that evening we were talking, and I'm like, so really what would an ideal process work for you? Like, tell me more about your coaching. I mean, I knew it, but I wanted to hear it again. And what we decided and we talked about was some sort of like almost imagine you're laying on a shrink's couch. And what would it be like to talk about your problems and then have like a voice response back? And I remember I lent you my voice recorder and said, hey, borrow the voice recorder, try answering a couple of these via voice and see what the response is. And that ultimately evolved into your second iteration, which was the clarity couch.
Yeah, exactly.
And so tell us a little bit more about like the process flow of, you actually branded the clarity couch. You branded it. It fit your brand perfect, but it was kind of like, I believe you called it the Clarity Couch Challenge, and allowed people to basically, it's a very similar process, except they would get a voice recording back from you. How did that compare, and how did you find like the conversion rate worked versus like your own time cost, and just how was the whole package?
Yeah, the Clarity Couch was a master move. The idea of it was this weird, like, Freudian psychoanalysis metaphor where you go in, you know, like old school therapy, you go into the guy's office, the shrink's office, and you kick back on one of those sort of Ottoman chaise lounge chairs, leather chairs, and you sit back and stare at the ceiling and talk, and then they tell you something, you know, some insight is received or whatever. And I realized with technology, I mean, with your help, we figured out that we could do this basically the same. So yeah, you gave me this little MP3 recorder, and what I would do is just the same process as the emails. I designed a really cool questionnaire that would kind of go deep and elicit some of the deeper problems that people are struggling with whatever's troubling them right now. And I did the same thing. I had people fill it out. I made it like a big part of my sales funnel. All kind of pages on my website directed back to this one call to action, which is take the Clarity Couch challenge. You know, go lay down on the couch and really spill, like open up. And same deal. I said, if you don't really give a lot of detail, I'm not going to take the time to respond back. And I had my assistant at that point respond back to people when she would kind of vet the answers. And if there wasn't a lot of detail, which we could tell just by looking at a glance, you know, like word count in the questionnaire answers, she would email them back and say, hey, do you want to, you know, go into a bit more detail, like maybe expand on these areas? And it worked great. We actually had a very, very low conversion rate for the form, which sounds weird, but it's essential because I don't want thousands of people. And at this point, I'm getting like thousands of hits a day on my website. I don't want thousands of people filling out this form because I'd be totally overwhelmed. I just wanted the good ones. So we really talked up the ordeal of filling it out in the copy and said, you know, this is just for people who are really committed. And at its top, it was 3.6% of people would fill it out. So like just a tiny, tiny number of folks. And then I would get the questionnaires. I would read over them really quickly, make a couple of notes just as quick as possible, and then hit record and just start talking and give them this flow of consciousness kind of stream of information where my goal was, I tried to do a couple of things. There was a bit of structure. I tried to reframe the perspective so that they saw their problem from a place that they had never seen it from before. Then I suggested like a tactical thing that they could do in their lives, like the idea being like, even if this was the last contact we ever have, like me and them, here's one little thing they can go out that's going to and do and make a difference. And then I would say, now, if I was to work with you as a client, this is what I would do. And I would talk more long-term transformational change stuff and get them really excited about the possibility of that, but no overt sales pitch. And then I'd say, thanks for taking the Clarity Couch report. And I'd take that file, the MP3, about 7 to 10 minutes long.
Unedited, right?
Huh?
Unedited.
Yeah, unedited, yeah. No editing at all. And I would drop it into an email and just kind of, it was very, like, I love to not be really overtly disgustingly salesy. So I would just kind of drop it in an email and say, hey, by the way, like, I typically use these emails to pitch people on my coaching services if they're a good fit. And you totally are. So if you're interested, let me know, and I'll give you the big pitch. And that was a copy I used in all of my emails. And I actually had people who were so blown away by the value they got out of this MP3 email me back and say, "Give me the big pitch." Like those were the words they used. So they were inviting me to sell to them. And yeah, so basically, of the Clarity Couches at its peak, like it varied from month to month, but when it was really up and running and humming, we were getting back to people nice and quick. It was converting 1 in 5 as clients, which is absolutely crazy. Like 1 in 5 people would get back to me. The weird thing is there was always like a certain percentage of them who would I would send the MP3 and they'd never reply. And I had like a follow-up process, like a reminder that was set for me to email them again. And I would say, hey, just checking in. Did you get the file? Never hear anything from them. And to this day, there's probably been a few hundred people like that I have no idea. Like, I guess maybe the MP3 just didn't resonate with them, or maybe it was so awesome that they used it to just rocket into the stratosphere and disappear. I don't know. So, but it doesn't matter, because the people who it did work for, there was enough of them that it would just pop my business up to the next level and freed me from writing all these emails and enabled me to kind of upsell people to regular coaching retainers. So that was like the second epoch, the second age of the Shrink for Entrepreneurs.
That was the second major iteration for sure. And the thing that I really like that you did in the first one, and we carried on over to the second one, is it was like basically your whole process flow and the questioning was something that would be a filter to bring in the right clients. And I think that's where a lot of freelancers, consultants fail, is they don't filter their clients very well. And so you would filter them and then add massive value to them. And it would like you said, like people would be asking for the sales pitch instead of, oh, I included this sales pitch for you. It's like, it's kind of subtle. And I really like that. And I think that has a lot to do with how you present yourself and what it's like to work with you. So I think that really reflects who you are, and I think that's outstanding. So I want to hear about the third process, the third iteration that you're in now.
Yeah, it's also, before we get onto that, like it's also worth mentioning that it does take, like I've told a lot of other coaches that I know about the Clarity Couch, and not all of them adopt it because they're afraid, like they don't have the confidence to be able to just jump on the MP3 and kind of riff. And I think that that's like an internal issue that coaches should have the tools to be able to work through. But that's the number one reason why people don't adopt this method, is that they're like afraid of like, what if people judge me, and they don't like me? And I think that if we really apply like a sales philosophy to it, like we want your people to judge you. We want to get prospects who aren't ever going to hire you because they hate your personality out of the funnel,
Exactly.
And the people who are going to love your particular flavor of weird, like we want them, we want them to be as committed as possible, and that's the best way to do it. So yeah.
Fantastic. So yeah, I mean, so like it's interesting to see the evolution of it, because like I remember that was one of the things we talked about, was like you got to be like super strong in who you are to do the Clarity Couches. So how have you carried that over to the third iteration?
Yeah, well, so the third iteration is very recent, and we've been doing it for just long enough to call it like an overnight success. Because yeah, it's been great, but the problem with the Clarity Couch is that it's still not scalable, right? Like it's still, and I mean, no coaching business is ever going to be scalable. That's not the point of a coaching business, but it's still like, like even with 1 in 5 converting, I found myself so busy with clients that I would back off doing the Clarity Couches, and then the same problem would occur where they'd build up and get out of date, and then I'd be sending MP3s for problems people were dealing with 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And that was making people unhappy. And, like at best they would just be like, oh, this isn't that relevant anymore. And at worst they were kind of pissed off that they didn't get the answer right away. So that kind of sucked. And I was getting totally overwhelmed. So what we figured out was at that point, I guess I had built up enough like credibility within my market and with my tribe to basically go like the exact opposite and just flip everything and say, I'm no longer going to do Clarity Couches. I'm no longer going to do free emails or anything like that, like big crazy emails. I'm just going to enable people to book a one-off trial consult with me, which is a full hour long with leftover time at the side at the end to talk about next steps. And I'm going to charge full price for it. So I charged $300 for the hour, and basically set up a button and said, if you're ready, like this is the thing to do. But there's a couple of kind of important things. One is that there's total risk reversal. I said to people that, I'm very clear that there's 2 things going on in each consult. The client's assessing me to see whether or not they're going to get the results they want, and they like working with me. And if they feel at any point that they're not, and that this is a waste of time or they've made a mistake or whatever, they can get their money back at any point. They can cancel the call. And I made it very clear, you don't even have to ask me. Just email my assistant so it's not like a big deal, like feels awkward, and just say, hey, it was cool, but it wasn't for me, whatever, and I want a refund. And at the same time, I'm also making sure that the client is a good fit for my client roster. So I'm assessing them throughout the hour to see, are they the type of person that I want to bring on my regular roster of people I work with every week, who are some of the most badass entrepreneurs in the world? So it's like a two-way kind of a process. We're feeling each other out. And the thing that I really focus on is I'm going to be giving the clients within that session that same frame of, if this is the first and last contact we ever have, like how can this be massively valuable? So I'm always looking to equip them with, one, to have them have a massive transformation within that hour, and 2, to give them all of the next steps they need so that at least if they went off on their own and never spoke to me again, I would send them in the right direction in terms of what books to look at, maybe what other resources to find out about, and just generally kind of get them going in the right direction and leave them on their own, so that it's a valuable consult just for $300. But hopefully, like if it's a good fit, it's the beginning of something so much more when we do a bunch of work together. So we launched that pretty recently, immediately sold a bunch of them as soon as it came out, and have kind of been consistently converting strangers into customers ever since. I had a crazy validating moment where someone landed on an old article of mine, which is, I have a lot of really old articles that get a lot of traction through search engine optimization. Like they rank highly for certain weird terms to do with entrepreneurs and business. And this was one of them. And I know she arrived just landed on that article randomly from Google because she left a comment, and like she would have had to go back so many pages, like clicking through the archives to find that article. So she showed up out of nowhere and left a comment that was like, oh my God, I'm so glad I discovered your site, and commented on whatever the article was about. And then like 45 seconds later, I got a PayPal notification. She had navigated from that article to the Become a Client page, found out about the test drive consult, and signed up for one. And so like that moment was like, I was like, yes, it's working. We're turning strangers into customers. And the crazy thing is, like, this sounds nuts, but at this point we have had 100% conversion from test drive like sessions into regular clients. So I don't know if I've hit, like, I need to figure out the next step, the fourth like iteration, but I'm already booked out, like totally jam packed. So yeah, it's going really well, I guess.
So do you think you're going to implement a waiting list for
that? Yeah,
or
well
what do you think
that's the next step. Exactly. And we've done that. And I've actually had waiting lists like at different points over the past as well, because of the commitment to just 15 hours a week. And, which is because like beyond that, I start to kind of become ineffective with my clients. And that's really where I need to be, sort of 15, maybe a few more, but around there to be a kind of optimum performance myself. So yeah, we'll probably implement a waiting list real soon and just, have people sign up and have the next available opening on the roster.
That's awesome. Is this something? So overall, how do you think the conversion rate has worked on this? Have you had any tracking on it?
Sorry, have I had any tracking?
Have you had any tracking on the PayPal button to see what the overall conversion rate? 'Cause you said the other one was somewhere around 3%, and then 1 out of 5, so 20%. So you had roughly 0.8% or something, like quick math, just about like a 0.5% of conversion rate roughly on the Clarity Couch. So,
yeah.
So what would you say the conversion rate is on this? Plus, we're also talking you actually get money in your pocket.
It's much, much lower. Like it's much, much lower, but I don't actually have because I don't think it's entirely useful to see the conversion rate on the actual clicking of the button, because we tell them the price beforehand. Right. So people who don't want it aren't going to click it. But yeah, I mean, we're talking like less than 1%. But at this point, there's enough traffic that, there's plenty of people hitting the site. And so enough of them are converting that yeah, I mean, honestly, we have the Ross client schedule is just insane right now. So
and it's also an amazing filter, because your ideal client wouldn't balk at that price point. They wouldn't say, hey, this is too much to pay. Like where the Clarity Couch had a very low barrier to entry, so you're probably spending more time dealing with it versus like the number of clients that come in, and it's not only are you getting paid, but it's also an even better filter. Have you found that to be true?
Yeah, precisely. Like the clients who have been coming through, it's done a couple of things actually. There's been two types of clients. Like one that are just a great fit. Like they're incredible people, and yeah, I can see it working really well. And the other clients that I'm getting are people who have been hanging out on my site for a long time. And this will probably diminish over time, because I guess they were there, like they've been hanging out for a long time. But when I launched it, they kind of came out of the woodwork and were like, "Oh my God, I never knew I could, I've always wanted to try it with you, but I've never knew that I could do that. I didn't know that we could just do a little, like a one-off trial." And they start the call with the intention of not becoming a regular client. And in every case where that kind of person has signed up, they've had the experience and been like, "Oh my God, I wish I had done this a long time ago." And "Oh my God, I wish, I need to sign up to work with you on a regular basis." And so they're really seeing the value once they actually get a start. One person who we did this with actually said to me that they were such a perfectionist that they had never filled out the Clarity Couch questionnaire before, because they didn't know how to express their problem properly. But once they paid the money, they were like, "Well, now you work for me, so I can just tell you whatever." And so they just explained their problem, which is just a crazy little thing in their head, but it seems to make a really big difference, I guess.
So for someone starting out, what method would you say they should go with in your experience? I mean, it really depends on where they're at, but what would you say if for someone starting out? Where would you suggest they start?
I think that I would honestly use the Clarity Couch model. I think that the Clarity Couch thing is an incredible. Doing the MP3 recording is the best fit. The email thing was a newbie mistake. It worked well, but it's just the MP3 is so much better. It really makes people feel like they're getting this incredibly valuable gift, because it's something that's much more everyone exchanges email all day long. But when who records an MP3 where they're sitting down and quietly listening to you do this, and all you need to do it is a computer. I actually downloaded. I got rid of your. I bought my own recording thing, my little gadget, but then I got rid of it and just started using a built-in app that was $5 on the Mac OS App Store, and it's so easy to do, but it's perceived as so much more valuable. And yeah, I think that everyone should be leveraging that.
And it emulates the actual type of coaching that you do.
Right. Yeah, and it really reflects who you are. There's a lot of communication that gets lost in email, that's present in tonality or whatever, And I think video is kind of over the top. You don't need to be staring at someone. I believe that if I did a video recording and emailed it to someone, that they would end up like turning on the video, watching it for a second, and then probably like opening up another window and just listening, being distracted. So audio is perfect.
Yeah, and video is almost a little intense to hear someone giving you advice on your problems. At least that's how I perceive it. So it's really interesting. I'm really glad that you're sharing the Clarity Couch model, because I think that model that we came up with on that late night back in New York City is absolutely perfect.
Right. It's awesome. Yeah, it's a great place to get started. And when you feel like you're overwhelmed with it, like the next step as well, which is to just start charging for those introductory sessions.
It's perfect. So, dude, this is exactly what I wanted to cover in this. Here's the section where I'll let you do your big pitch. Like I'm telling you, hey, let's hear the big pitch. If you want to work with Peter, here's how you can. Kind of thing.
All right. Cool. Well, we've just spent the whole time talking about it. I have a couple of things. I have two things, really. One, everyone should come and check out petershallard.com. It's the home of the Shrink for Entrepreneurs. Badass blog. I write about business and psychology. And yeah, I have a background in this industry. I know, I go deep and far back in coaching. So it's always a cool place to hang out, get content. And if you do want to work with me, you can book a test drive consult, and it's totally awesome and will blow your mind regardless of what happens afterwards. I also have a really exciting startup called Commit Action, which is all about helping people defeat procrastination, which we haven't talked about, but I believe is like the last obstacle to really achieving big business success. So we have this incredible, like crazy low cost service where we help people every week, give them like one-to-one coaching and help them beat procrastination. It's like how this works. When you find out about it, will blow your mind. I work really closely with a professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School in developing the technology that goes into that. Our coaches are trained to improve and like focus on 7 psychologically proven variables that move the dial when it comes to productivity and bottom line results. So this is like empirical, it's tested. We've done it with hundreds of clients at this point. And if you go to commitaction.com, you can grab a whole bunch of incredible free information that I've developed with Dr. Pillai, who's our Harvard strategic advisor. That's all about the 4 pillars of productivity and how you can build them in your life, regardless of whether or not you actually sign up for Commit Action. So that information is free. You can implement it on your own. And I really suggest you do if you're trying to build your own business, because it'll change the game for you. And you'll find out all about what we do on the inside of that business once you sign up. So yeah, that's my big pitch.
Perfect. Yeah. So I've actually seen the backside of Commit Action, and have like talked with you over the time you've been developing it, and the product is spot on. Like I can't think of a better tool to help people who are working for themselves or like working on a project themselves that need like that a little bit of motivation. Because when you work for yourself, I found it's really hard to stay focused on what you need to be doing, and like making a weekly time or a time that you actually like sit down and you focus on like what are the next steps I need to be taking and commit to making those next steps is key to making long-term progress. And this is something that Peter has developed a killer tool. So commitaction.com, definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be super excited if everybody goes and signs up there. We just want to send you cool information and basically hear what you think about it. So do it. Drop me emails. Get in touch. I love to hear from people who are getting involved in this type of stuff.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much for doing this, man. This has been fantastic, and I really think this is going to help people create a good system for filtering out problem clients or bringing the right clients into their business. Thanks for the peek inside your business, dude.
No worries. You're welcome. Anytime.
Awesome, dude. We'll talk soon.
All right. Laters.